For too many Rhode Island families, putting food on the table is still a daily struggle. Food insecurity remains a stubborn and often invisible challenge across our state, affecting children, seniors, and working families alike. So what's really driving food insecurity in Rhode Island, and what can be done about it? Today, we're joined by Amanda Missimer, a nutrition professor at the University of Rhode Island, to talk about the state's food system, the realities behind the data driving food insecurity, and what Rhode Island can do to ensure that everyone has access to healthy, reliable food.
Bartholomew Town.
Welcome into Bartholomew Town. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Look, food insecurity, it's one of those issues that you look around the state, and when you hear some of the statistics that we're talking about, if you're not familiar with them, it's actually shocking. Sometimes we use that word shocking, like, oh my goodness, can you believe what X politician said? That's shocking. It is shocking that on a global basis, a national basis, but let's keep it focused here on a hyper-local level in Rhode Island, southern New England, that we have the type of food insecurity crisis that we have. And the University of Rhode Island has been engaged in a lot of work around this. And Amanda Missimer, right on the front lines of that, nutrition professor at URI, she'll join us in just a matter of moments to talk about that. By the way, URI Online, a sponsor of this program, and I ask, are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, we offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life, whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development. Our online programs provide the flexibility you need with the high-quality education you deserve. Learn from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals. It's all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. URI.edu/online. That's where you can find all of the programs that you can use to start building your future today. URI Online. Learn anywhere with us. Food insecurity in Rhode Island is something that, it comes up pretty often on a discussion basis, right? On a discussion level basis, right? We hear about it enough in general conversation, certainly at the community level. I mean, just think about the types, the food banks or the Boy Scouts, they go around, they hang up the bag, you put the cans in. But I believe this conversation has been extraordinarily stigmatized. I'm sure you, at least at some level, would agree with that notion. And it needs to be humanized. And we need to realize it's like, this is all of our problems. 38% of Rhode Island households are food insecure, yet 38%. That's the highest level recorded in this state in recent years. It's not like this is all of a sudden getting better, and you could say, well, let's look at the pandemic, let's look at different trends on a macroeconomic level and try to pair that or something like that. No, as the affordability crisis increases for people, food insecurity numbers are increasing. All right, there's a lot of times I think we get people who sit on the sidelines and they say, well, there's social safety nets in place for all of this, forget about it. We don't, my tax dollars are already taking care of this, give me something else to think about. But that is not the case. Millions of meals per year are missed by low-income Rhode Islanders. I mean, think about the food bank, Rhode Island Community Food Bank. They serve like nearly 85,000 people a month through pantries, meal sites, things like that. Oh, by the way, this is an equity, and this is just a general societal issue that mirrors other major affordability issues in the sense that food insecurity, it varies widely by race. All right, 55% of Latino households, 47% of Black households in Rhode Island are food insecure. I mean, that's unbelievable. Those numbers, 55% of Latino households in Rhode Island are food insecure. What are we doing about this? And there are so many other levels that we can go with this discussion as well. Obviously, we can talk about, and we ought to talk about, culturally appropriate foods. That's something that, some people will scoff at. Well, it's free food. So, I mean, please. There's a lot of levels that we might want to talk about as well in terms of distribution. What about, if you have an undocumented individual, are they concerned they may encounter ICE or something if they go to a food pantry? There's just so much to this. But I think the main thing is, what's at cause here? I mean, the obvious thing is affordability, right? And major issues like food deserts or, if not food desert, culturally appropriate food access. Culturally appropriate, affordable food access. These are all factors. But drilling down to the actual cause, the actual root, that's exactly what we're going to do today. That's why we have Dr. Missimer on to break it down for us from the University of Rhode Island. We're brought to you in part, by the way, by Half Street Group. They bring a new generation's perspective to leadership, communication, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street, they help organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. I mean, we look around our beautiful state, and we can't solve all the world's problems. You think we could solve food insecurity, or at least get that number way down? I mean, the one that jumps out to me consistently, 38% of Rhode Island households food insecure. That's unbelievable. And Missimer from URI in just a matter of moments. We're brought to you in part by Waterfire. Visit waterfire.org, and Newport Film. Visit newportfilm.com for all of the latest screening details. Back in 30 seconds for our conversation with Amanda Missimer.
You and your employees work hard for your customers. At HealthSource RI for Employers, we work hard for all of you. We offer access to 18 quality health insurance plans plus dental, flexible costs to meet your budget and get your staff what they need, and customized local support to guide you through it all. More than 1,200 Rhode Island employers choose health insurance through us. HealthSource RI. We work for you. HealthSourceRI.com/employers.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. This is fantastic to be here. I'm Amanda Missimer, and I'm a clinical associate professor at the University of Rhode Island, and I have a joint appointment in the Department of Nutrition and Cooperative Extension.
There's so much intersectionality between even those two, the joint appointments that you just described there. But I think let's start on a real basic level and then look backwards to the recent URI Food Summit and some of the action that's being taken. Why, when we look at Rhode Island specifically right now, we see a number 38% that fluctuates on a daily basis, but approximately 38% certainly weighed, WEIGHED, weighed heavily towards Latino and Black families. Why is Rhode Island 38% food insecure?
That's a big question. You know, there's a lot of factors that play into this, as we know, and not only is the number exacerbated by race and ethnicity, it's also exacerbated by having children at home. And it's interesting because when I got into this work, I didn't really even think about grocery prices, really, because when I arrived in Rhode Island, it was 1 in 9 families that were food insecure, which is still too high, right? And then after the pandemic, it dropped to it increased to 1 in 4 households. Now it fluctuates between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3. We never rebounded from COVID. And then on top of that is the rise in costs of food, which is astronomical. It costs a family of $4 $50 to go to McDonald's. It's crazy. It's wild. So I think it's a combination in this particular state of food price as well as food access to other options. In my time, I've lived here for 6 or 7 years now. I've seen the increase of grocery stores like Aldi and Market Basket who have these more affordable prices, because when I moved here, Stop and Shop was the only game in town. And as a professional, I won't pay $2.99 a pound for cherries. I just won't do it. So if I'm not doing it, who is? These low-income families simply can't afford the food prices the way they were, and certainly can't afford them now.
Yeah.
And so I think it's lack of access, increasing prices, and not only that, increasing prices of children. Like have you met a teenage boy? They are hungry. You were once one. They are hungry. So it's not only that, but it's also the cost of like school food and all these things. I just think it's exacerbated multifactorially.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting, obviously a very well-defined description right there. I think a lot of times you ask people, and I mean, who define people? I'll tell you who I'm defining people as. When you're on talk radio in the afternoon as I am, sometimes you get people who call up and say, well, our tax dollars, we've got an unbelievable social safety net here. Oh, have you seen the salary of the employees, the executives at this food bank or this, that, and the other? And while, you can take a look at some of that stuff, I guess, if you want to go through from a fine-tooth comb and make it some kind of random argument, the bottom line is this is such a macro issue. It's such a systems issue.
Oh, yeah.
That in order to solve this, do you think we need to change the entire system in terms of food systems, distribution? How do you get back to the source here?
Well, I'm going to answer this two ways. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say, first and foremost, I'm an educator. I'm a professor. I chose to do education for my whole life. I went to college for 10 years and then I never left. So I think education is a big piece of this. If you think about it, like I teach a general nutrition class it's a gen ed, so anybody can take it, to about 300 to 400 students a year. And I think this is my chance. This is the only nutrition class they're ever going to get. And I think about how we have little to no nutrition education in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, post-college, which is wild because we eat every single day. And then what's hard for me is, of course, I don't have my algorithm showing these things because I don't need to do that in my free time. But all these influencers with misinformation, so much misinformation. So we have this distrust of the food system and nutrition information when it is literally as easy as eat fruits and vegetables and eat enough food. Like I wouldn't need a job, but I do because there's so much misinformation. So one, I think it's education.
Yeah.
We offer a lot of programs, but again, it's hard to get to people. It's hard to find the right time. It's hard to, build trust in communities and establish ourselves. So I think one, education, and that's obviously something that I'm passionate about. I do for my job. And secondly, I'm all over the food system. I'm specifically really passionate about food pantries, anywhere from I just recently met the new leader of our Rhode Island State Food Bank. And in the summers, I volunteer at my local food pantry as just like local town girl. So I sort of see every step of the process. And I think it's hard to hear those comments like, oh, the executives are going to be, this is hard work. It is hard work. It's hard to get food. It's hard to give food away for free. And it's hard to make sure that the food is good.
Right.
Like, if a food has a shelf life, especially like at my pantry, we have fresh fruits and vegetables. We have meat. We have all these things that have a shelf life. So it's this like stressful game of we need enough food, but it can't go bad.
Right. It's unbelievable.
That's the other end, because food waste and loss is another big area of passion that I work in. So we make as a world enough food to feed people, and we are wasting so much of it.
Right. I was going to say, it's unbelievable when you think about the waste piece of that. I've told the story a few times in the podcast before, and I know there's all kinds of regulations. I know that there's foodborne illnesses. I know that there's a lot of reasons why what I'm about to say is the way it is. But I once, right out of college, worked as some kind of assistant at some kind of hedge fund in New York when I was in New York for a while. And you go in, you go up the elevator, you're wearing like kind of cheap dress clothes and everything, and you're just standing there like, what am I doing with my life? But part of my job was to set up a buffet for, for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner. Part of the gimmick was they kept these, recent Harvard grads trapped inside a building under the guise of, well, we'll feed you breakfast, we'll feed you lunch, we'll feed you dinner. So you get locked in, you can't leave. It's a nightmare for these people. This was right before the crash in 2008. So, but the guy in the head of this hedge fund ended up going to jail. Anyway, they had huge amounts of food come in, all 3 meals for these people. And literally half of it every single day was thrown out. And I tried to find any option to distribute this to unhoused community, anybody. And it is anybody. It's totally
like anybody.
Totally illegal, 100% illegal, has to be discarded. If not, it's literally illegal. So I encountered this very early on in the quote unquote real world when I left URI. And I saw it at URI, but when I was in New York and I saw, wow, there are literally people dying on the streets right now. Yep. There are literally thousands of dollars worth of untouched, unopened foods in front of me. We can't make that connection. I'm not saying that's the connection to make, but it just proves that the disparity is not a lack of product.
Exactly. Exactly. And you saw it firsthand. And I'm sorry to report that that is happening left, right, and center. I was just at a conference, and to think about how much I actually have this insane picture where they like ran out of eggs. So I had to have um, toast with, I had a cream cheese toast, and then I had a peanut butter toast because it was the last. And this was the amount of waste on my plate. Food waste.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And look at that plastic from those individual jellies. I was
Crazy.
like, this is nuts. And I agree. And I was in Kansas City, and we were in like, I guess, a middle, like a gentrified area. So there's people on the streets who could have, right. And that's my issue. I will say Rhode Island is taking some important steps in changing legislature to allow food to be repackaged, redone. And they're like, Johnson and Wales is doing an amazing job with their wildcat food rescue in that capacity.
That's right.
But because they have the infrastructure. And that's the hard part about like where I come from. I'm a bench scientist by training. And now that I'm in more of this food access and community work, the hardest part is logistics. You're like a logistics event planner. And I wasn't trained for that with a pipette. So that's the hard part, is like without the people literally driving things from point A to point B, keeping them at the right temperature, and who has funding for that?
Right.
So it's really a logistics issue.
Wow.
And it's a repackaging issue. Now I've gotten deep into the world of depackaging, which is another huge issue. But that's something I've been working on at URI Dining. You know, we finally have they got a grant, and they have a nice food waste distribution occurring, but they've not gotten to the food redistribution step. So I don't want to think about how many trays of wings are at least being composted, but still going to waste.
Right.
There's hungry frat boys. They're hungry. They will eat them.
Hey, I'm telling you, I, as a URI student, I saw it with my own eyes. There were more than enough calzone boxes to build a ladder to the moon. So there's that.
Exactly.
Let's talk about, oh, please.
No, just one more issue with the finances too is the DoorDash. I think it's people's dependence on DoorDash and ordering food rather than cooking at home, which is another, it's so expensive.
Yeah.
It's
so expensive.
Why is a $15 cocktail normal for me? Like, that's an issue.
Right. It's
Sweatshirts
completely
are
crazy.
$65. I'm like, what are sweatshirts? Anyway, continue.
No, I find that really interesting. The DoorDash factor in this, and all of this from an economic standpoint, distribution, wealth gap, access gap, it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
One other major gap that we saw huge in the pandemic was culturally. In fact, I had not really thought of this, even though I have a specialization in my food needs, culturally appropriate food. And I'll take that one step further as a vegan myself, vegan, gluten-free, et cetera, options that are there to meet the moment. This is no longer a moment where should be viewed as specialized or, I remember the cultural appropriation argument, asking the governor about this, then Governor Raimondo during COVID. And it was kind of a new idea. It was kind of like one of those things. Oh yeah, we've been hearing about this at conferences or whatever. We're starting to think about this now. Today, that is no longer the case. We have a huge population of refugees and other immigrants in this country and in this state.
Yep.
And they make up an outsized portion of the food insecurity aspect of things. How much of that is because we're not able to provide culturally appropriate or nutritionally resonating food or preference-based food for people? And how do we sell those naysayers on the idea that this isn't about, just trying to, waste their tax dollars on tempeh or whatever it is? How do we push back on those who are opposed to this kind of thinking?
Yeah. This is really great. And I did see a huge shift in the food bank with their distribution of culturally relevant foods, maybe like 1 or 2 years after COVID. Like, we were really getting some excellent things like out to the pantries. And, there's a lot more culturally relevant. Like, I think of Sankofa World Market. If you've not been in contact, they're amazing. And I'm just like, there are so many greens here. Like, I wouldn't know where to begin with these greens, but the people who need those greens to feel fulfilled, missing their country, is just, it's amazing. And I just further get confused by America where it's like, oh, come here and eat like hamburgers and French fries, when we are literally a nation built on immigrants. So you think we all have these culturally relevant foods that previously reminded us, but we're forced into this like pigeonhole of American food. And
Right.
what's really worrying me is the increased pickiness of American children. And The Atlantic just did a super interesting article. Did you see it?
I did.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's a really great article. Yep.
That. Even like I called my mom the other day. I was like, what did we do in the 90s? And she's like, you just ate whatever I put out. There was nothing. You didn't like peas, but other than that, like you just ate the food. And
Right.
the amount of people who are making 2 to 3 meals whose kids are living on chicken nuggets or don't even like pizza because they get it so much is very concerning for me. So I think that loss of cultural food, I think about my colleague who her husband's from a Scandinavian country. I can't remember. Like he eats fish paste every morning.
Yeah.
And so do kids in that country. It's okay. Like, so I think it's a mixture of like losing the culture over time and therefore not having like the drive of these foods.
Right.
Like I live in Westerly and we have Westerly meat packing. I don't know if you've had the pleasure, but it is a true Italian grocery store. It is there and it is the stuff and you can make braciole and you can make the dishes of your ancestors. But I think it's a dichotomy between the stepping away from the culture and the increased pickiness that's reducing the ability of these stores to carry these things regularly. Coupled with that, we have this mixed diversity. So everyone thinks, and we see this, we actually talked about this at the food summit. Everyone's like go-to cultural diverse food is plantains. I was like, got to get plantains over here. But there are so many countries that don't have plantains. So we can't just like throw plantains at the problem.
Right. Yeah. Well said. That's a bumper sticker right there. We can't throw plantains at this problem. It's a nuanced one. It's going to require specialization and a lot of
And
thought.
specialized grocery stores. Like I would love if my town had an Asian market on top of, and I actually think we do. I need to look, an Italian market. And one of the people that I interviewed at the summit that I moderated a panel for owns, gosh, I'm forgetting the first name. It's a tropical grocery store. And I'm forgetting the first name of it. That's so bad. Please put it in the show notes. And their whole thing is about building community for the cultural relevance in their neighborhoods.
Yep.
Really amazing stuff. And that's what you want to see, right? That's the dream.
Yeah. The empowerment from a grassroots level up on a neighborhood level. I agree. That's really where you want to see this play out.
Absolutely. And that means we don't need this. Why, and again, don't come for me, Stop and Shop. I won't step a toe in that store. I can't stand seeing 100 types of cereal.
Same.
No one has ever needed 100 types of cereal. We need to try plantains and cassava and all these, like whatever those greens are, and try and get more of that back into it or stick to the culture. Like Westerly's Italian, bring all the Italian stuff in. I'll try it.
Sure.
But less types of cereal. We don't need that many. This is a problem of excess.
I completely agree. I'd agree more. Last question. Looking back at the food summit and URI's own, I mean, you talked about some of the work at the dining hall, and I think that's totally admirable, and it is accurate that there's efforts going on there. URI's own engagement in this space on a community level, but particularly looking back on the food summit, which took place, and it was in January, right? It was right out of the gate in this calendar year. What's the University of Rhode Island doing, generally speaking? How's the University of Rhode Island doing as a community leader in navigating food insecurity, at least from what the mission ought to be, right? Education, but even beyond that.
Right. I would say that it is, I have to be careful because I work there and I want to continue working there. I would say that it is on its way. I would say that there is movement, not as much movement as I would like to see. But again, I don't think I've never met anyone from high to low that said, I don't want to do this and I don't want to feed the students in any of this. It's just logistics and time and capacity. That's what it's really all about. So we are definitely getting there. Like our food pantry, on campus food pantry has been expanding and growing. And like now we're getting weekly donations from 7 Stars, for example. We have our on-campus programs that I co-coordinate with our farms, our free farmers market, where we mobilize food grown on campus to the quad. That's a seasonal program. And then, of course, we have my cooperative extension program where we work with food recovery partners all across the state. And then we also have other food insecurity networks with my colleagues. We have the Hunger Center, my colleague who works with SNAP-Ed and FNAP. So that's low-income nutrition education programs. So we are doing what we can. But again, I would like to see a much bigger push. Like in my dream, Rhode Island would be repurposing all the food from all of its dining locations and either selling it at a discounted rate, giving it away for free, while simultaneously composting every single piece of food waste we could.
Well, I'm with you there. And I think a lot of times when we look at utopian concepts, they seem futuristic or anything like that. And then by design, they are. At the same time, I think Rhode Island has a unique position between elevating access to fresh foods, distribution of it, elevating third spaces, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to be like a model for the rest of the world to look at in terms of how to run a city-state. And a huge piece of that is going to have to do with food. And it gets overlooked way too often when we're talking about those big picture, dream, multi generations down the line type of things. We've got a lot of work to do, no doubt. And that space, the food space.
I agree with you, but I also agree that we could 100% be a model for it. I'm not from Rhode Island originally. I'd like to disclose. But what I love about this state, and I was just saying the other day, is I can call anyone. I can literally call Dan McKee and get a meeting with him. Like I saw Jack Reed at the airport the other day and I was like, hey, because he's been supporting a lot of our work as well. And the movement and the passion in this space compared to the other states I've lived and worked in is unmatched.
Yeah.
And everyone knows everyone, which is a beautiful thing. Not only that, we have our 400 miles of coastline, and in a depressing piece, I will say we are warming faster than other states because of that. And that's coming directly from my GSO colleagues who are saying these things. So we are really this model of the ability to make statewide changes because we're so small. So I totally agree with you. And I think it's all just about continuing to connect the dots. And that's what we're working on. That's the point of the Food Summit is like, let's connect the dots. Like I'm slacking the entire time, like to my partner, Vanessa, call this person, like get a meeting with this person. Like we just had an amazing meeting with Feast and Fettle, who we've been trying to partner with. And now they're a Rhode Island based company. They're going to be supporting our program. Like, let's keep building the connections.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. Build the connections and the infrastructure will develop. Amanda, thanks so much. Thanks so much for your expertise. Thanks so much for your time today. This was like one of those conversations where it's like, could go on a long time. I'd love to circle back and do this again
anytime
later this year and like get more drilled down in some more specifics. And there's so much in this space.
Absolutely, Bill. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me and putting this important information on your platform.
Hey, thanks for joining us here on Bartholomew Town. Remember, we're here for you every Tuesday and Thursday. Find me on Instagram at Bill Bartholomew. And remember to tell your friends about the podcast and give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening right now. I'm Bill Bartholomew. We'll talk next time.